I'm going to take full accountability for that.
Yeah, but that's indicative of somebody who's young though. So I think like you shouldn't really have, I'm not saying, I mean, it's great that, you know, you can look back at the age of 15 and 16 and hold yourself accountable for these things. But for me, as a, like, I look back now and I got to say, sometimes young people are just young, and it just takes time for somebody to mature, you know? And that's the hard part, because that's why we have a lot of old heads. They look down at young people, you're fucking dumb. But if I know those people and I'm like, dog, when you were younger, you were way worse, you know? So there was something that happened in your life that allowed you to mature, whether it was time, whether it was a human being, who knows what that was, but those things take steps and time to happen, right? So yeah, I mean, there's accountability that you should take for it, but there's also time where you were a kid, and most 15 and 16 year olds, they don't go through what you went through, you know, and that's the hard part too. That's why it's like, I always wonder, in somebody like in your case, like if, you know, who was in your corner, like that could really be like, yo, stop, or listen, you know, or some shit, you know?
I feel a lot of people, you know, the label was at times though, because I also do feel like, respectively, I don't want to air their business out. That's just not how I am. But I will say, I had went through a lot of like hypocritical confusion. And again, they were younger at this point in time too. And a lot of the people that were in my corner were younger. It was a different time. But it was just certain things like, you know, you got to work hard, bro. Everybody, you got to steer your ship. You got to be the leader. You got to be the leader of this shit. I'm 19, mind you. I'm 18, 19. What the fuck do you mean? This is like, what the fuck? Like, my friend just got his first car. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, it's like
exactly. Like, how do
you know? And it's
mean?
weird to tell a kid that. I look at now, like, I have somebody around me at this moment. He's part of my team. Shout out to Jack Peros. His name's Jack, and he's like he's a super young kid, but I never take him like I never try to son him like that, because of the amount of times I felt like I was son. It just really, really weirded me out at those times to kind of be pressured into things and talked to like I was a college football player when I really was just like, you know what I mean? Like,
so cute, like music.
Yeah, like I just want to make rap songs. Like that's it, you know? But you know, it's just, I look at Jack sometimes, and sometimes I'll feel a bit, I'll like speak a bit harsh to him. And then I'll even indicate it within my own speech because of those times. It's like, don't pressure him that much, man. Come on, dude. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is fun at the end of the day with all of you. So be a nicer guy to this kid, man. And like it, you know, with that being said, it's like, with those moments in my life, I just wish there was somebody in my corner at least to be like, oh, this is kid shit. Yeah. You know, again, for example, that, you know, you steer the ship, all this stuff, but then being told, again, with what I said about like hypocritical things, it's like, on the other side, I'd get, hey, man, we need you to hang out with some kids, man. Being around a lot of older people, you know, X and Y and Z got friends from NYU, because I was staying in New York at the time. Like, why don't you go hang out with them? You know, and it's like, I just felt like a studied lab rat at certain points, you know? And again, it's not how I always say this. It's not about what people say. It's how you make them feel. And that's how I felt. I felt like a lab rat at certain points. Well, because
they were giving you advice that they didn't even know it was sound either. They were just they were just talking. It sounds like they were just talking. They were just like, maybe he should do this, but they were saying it with a lot of confidence, even though they didn't really know.
And again, they didn't. So that's why I'm not like they're horrible people. It's not like that. It was a lot of stuff. I mean, I got talked to a certain way a lot. And I know that because I go to therapy now, and I'm telling my therapist all this stuff, and she's just like looking at me like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I know certain things weren't all the way my fault, you know, but I took accountability anyway as a kid, and then beat myself up for it a lot. And I grew with a lot of self-hate. I grew with a lot of shame. And then when things went a little sour, I grew with even more shame. And it was, you know, the people in my corner, they did help me out, and they were quite confident, but I feel like the love language just was a bit harsh. I feel like, you know, one of the last meetings I had with them was just this meeting of, you know, things aren't going well. I think you're going to need to take a trip back to Toronto and be a kid again, and kind of make some decisions, and you know, and finally, but it was like almost the cage had been set free and the canary can go. And I'm like, I am 21.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, like my young life is just beginning, but what?
Yeah.
And then it was just weird. Or 20, 21, I don't even need to date these things at this point, but that's what happened. And again, like hearing, funny enough, I found out later on in my life that during that whole period of time, I was anxious. I had anxiety, rough anxiety, like very weird anxiety. Like I would literally like ask anybody around that, like I mean, weirdly enough, I'm not doing it right now, but I would just be jittery in rooms and at a certain point in time, it's like even, you know, for example, the people in my corner, I would shake and they'd be like, yo, stop fucking shaking, man. Yo, see, name me one successful person that shakes. It's just like that. It's like you could kindly tell me to stop shaking, but I'm this child star. You want some, you know what I mean? And it's like, stop fucking shaking. Or like somebody would record me doing it and then send it to the group chat and I'd have to see, you know what I mean? Like just dumb shit. And again, I don't want to be disrespectfully airing anybody out, but just to show you perspective on how I felt back then, it was very weird, you know? Very just, a lot of that stuff didn't need to be said to me. But at the same time, I don't feel like the world owes me shit. And I don't feel like, it's like the world's going to be mean sometimes. So that's another thing I kind of had to learn out of all that. And I kind of had to learn to build my thick skin and really understand these situations for what they are. And
it's weird because you're kind of thrown into a very harsh industry though, especially as a young star, right? And I think like with companies like that, they kind of look at people like products, right?
Yeah.
So when they see you do things that are actually very fucking human, you know,
yeah. And in a way though, again, like I'd have to come from a place of understanding too. It's like they were family to me at a certain point. So I can never ever sit here and say and victimize myself. I can't victimize myself.
Yeah.
I always tell myself that, like, don't do that. Like, you went through things, they went through things, and it's that's what it is, and it's all the past. So lay it down, but also just be aware of what happened and reflect upon these feelings sometimes. Yeah. Because at a certain point in time, I'm going to have either an artist under me, an entity under me, somebody like Jack that I was talking about earlier. You know, somebody that I'm going to have to play that role with sometimes. Not a big brother per se, but probably just a mentor, I guess, in certain ways.
I think for you too, though, like I understand the whole concept of not wanting to like victimize yourself and taking personal responsibility, but there's a point where it kind of goes a little too much, right? Where you kind of hold this thing where it becomes too much your fault, you know? Yeah. So there's like a really tricky balance of that. Yeah. Because, you know, because we could talk about personal responsibility and we could tell ourselves all the time, it's like, I understand that's how the world is, but sometimes people are just fucked up. Yeah, you know? Yeah. And so I think it's a because I'm more the opposite side, right? I always go, fuck you, and I just move on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I have mental clarity after that. And you know, probably my side, I'm probably a little bit more opposite of you, where I do take a lot of personal responsibility for the things that I do, but when people fuck up around me, I do have a tendency to hold it against them a lot. Not in the sense that it's like, it's not the sense that I don't have empathy for them, right? So for example, like, you know, I have friends who have done fucked up things, but then I look back at them, I could be like, oh, well, they had a pretty fucked up life growing up. People have betrayed them, they've stabbed them in the back, and they're just putting that energy on me. But I still say at the end of the day, fuck you though. And I move on. Yeah. So I try to balance it out a little bit. It's like, I understand you as a person, but I don't fuck with you anymore.
Yeah. You know, with the people in my corner from back then, it's like, we're cordial now. Of course. You know, things are civil now. And I love that. I love that it's not forced. Everybody said sorry to each other. Everybody has paid their respects to each other. But at the end of the day as well, you know, there's certain things I don't forget. And there were certain moments, you know, in those times that embedded into my personality in a bad way. Yeah. And I'd like to be aware of that. And I'd like to, of course, gradually change that over time.
Because you absorbed a lot of that as a young person. Yeah. And you feel like sometimes it leaks out.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the way I talk, my demeanor, certain things that I do. I always go home and I reflect, but not overthink. I just reflect. So, you know, even tonight, like from certain things that I said, maybe I'll just reflect upon them and just hope that I didn't hurt anybody with what I said. Because I never want to do that now. I never want to actually come out my neck about anybody that serviced me, whether bad or good, because with whatever you did, I am me now because of it. So I can't, you know what I mean? I can't be bitter like that. I grew up with a lot of hate on my shoulder, you know, walking into certain things. You know, I didn't grow up with a father. you know, I grew up with a stepdad, and I loved him. You know what I mean? Like, I could grow with certain feelings, but at the same time, like, I'm growing to appreciate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have been through certain things in my life that put hate in my heart.
What age did your dad leave?
3 or 4, I think.
Oh, super young. So did you not really have a relationship with him, or?
Nah, I don't even really know what he looks like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, I don't really know him like that. One of the last times I heard of, and I'm just gonna say this because I can say it and whatever, it's my life.
Yeah.
And people can take it how they want. But one of the last things I heard from him or about him was he wanted forgiveness from me or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't really, I didn't really have like you
didn't know what to say? Or
it's just like, cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I get it, but like, who are you to me in a way? Because I love my stepdad more than anything in the world. So it's like, if it was my stepdad and I that had a problem and he was on some shit like that, you know, after some time, by all means.
Because you have a foundation.
Hell yeah. Like, my stepdad is he's the greatest person in the world to me. Like, I love him. I idolize him.
So it's hard. So when he asks for forgiveness, like, I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know you,
what
bro.
What am I supposed to say?
And it's not me being bitter. Like, a lot of people take it as like a bitter thing. I just take it as like, I don't know you.
Yeah,
so I can't.
Because even if you said the word, like, you don't even know if you mean it or not. It's just like, I guess I forgive you, but forgive what? Like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah. But you know, I don't have hate in my heart for him. Like, he made me.
Yeah.
It is what it is, you know, but at the same time, like, I just don't know you, so it is what it is. But one of those situations in my life, like, that's a situation in my life I could look back and be like, okay, that was one of the chips on my shoulder walking into life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a lot of them. But I think now I feel I'm going through somewhat of a resurgence, so